BH, would retconning it be a bad thing, though? Yes, because you've already committed to it. Now, depends on what you mean when you say retcon, because there are various ways in which you can retcon something. The best way to retcon it, though, would be something we've discussed before, which is to create it as if it has never happened before. That would be the best way to retcon it. So, in terms of World of Warcraft, you would use the old gods. And the old gods made us sleep, and we saw the Shadowlands. That would be the best way to retcon the Shadowlands. If we're talking about pure retcon, so we're talking about you basically just pretend like the Shadowlands didn't happen, yes, that is a terrible idea. Because as much as people hated the Shadowlands happened. It is part of the lore, it's part of the history of World of Warcraft forever now. So for people, it's sort of this thing of, at least that's what I do, maybe other people are different here, but something that I've been doing quite a lot, especially with the newer content that I do on the main channel, is sort of going, okay, I hated the Shadowlands, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to take what I know about the Shadowlands lore, and I'm going to apply it into Dragonflight, because I really want to speculate about Dragonflight. I have a good feeling about this expansion. I like everything they're doing so far, so I'm just going to sort of accept Shadowlands so as to move on with Dragonflight. If you now retcon Shadowlands, that makes it very difficult, because I've already accepted that Shadowlands happened. I'm glad that it's fucking over, but I've accepted that it happened. Retconning it is almost never a good idea, because it pisses off the people that actually did like it, and it pisses off the people that didn't like it, because the people that didn't like it still accept this now as canonical. So I don't think retcons are ever a good idea, unless you... I realize this is going to sound incredibly contradictory, but if you are the writer of Warhammer, I think retcons are far more acceptable than if you're the writer for World of Warcraft. In Warhammer, there's sort of like an unspoken deal that's been made between the community and Games Workshop. The deal is simple. We'll give you lore. We'll change the lore whenever the fuck we feel like it. We'll change the story whenever we feel like it. And we'll all just pretend like it's either Chaos that's doing it, or, you know, the person who originally said it couldn't be trusted, so they got it completely wrong. You know, and if you look at what Games Workshop does a lot of the time, a lot of the lore in Warhammer is sort of delivered from third parties. You know, it's sort of third-party accounts of things that have happened. So it's not hard to retcon when your entire universe is written on the basis of it could be retconned. Because the person that's telling you this is not some god. It's not some overarching, all-knowing deity. It's a person, or it's someone who overheard something somewhere, and they're now telling everyone about this thing that they overheard somewhere. But it could be that they overheard entirely wrong, and that the story is still, you know, very different, or it's going to play out very differently. And then in the rare cases where the story just needs to be flat out retconned, they have Zeech or any of the other Chaos Gods, right, that can literally just change shit if they want, you know. So they've sort of built that into their universe. And World of Warcraft is not the same. Blizzard have been trying very hard for a really long time to sort of canonize World of Warcraft. I don't know why they decided to do that. I don't understand what was wrong with the original World of Warcraft. If you think back to World of Warcraft pre-Chronicles, sort of, I don't know what was wrong there. You know, like...
Well, do you want the,
Yeah?
Do you want the cynical answer, or the answer from a quasi-lore perspective?
Fuck it, I feel adventurous. Give me both.
Okay. The cynical answer is Denuzer just hates everything that Metzen did and wants to do his own thing.
Yeah.
constantly feeling insecure and like he's under the shadow of somebody who arguably is better at writing. Granted, WoW lore has its problems, like every other franchise. It's not perfect, but holy crap, does Denuser have this hard-on for rewriting lore or backstory to say, haha, look at me.
Yep.
And then the lore perspective is kind of for some reason they are trying to canonize at the same time, also build up any source as an unreliable narrator, like how Warhammer does it, because they wanted the Chronicles to be the lore as told by the Titans. The Grimoire, which was a huge failure in my opinion, was supposed to be the lore according to the brokers. It was supposed to just focus on the Shadowlands, but it told us like absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And
it sort of just recapped a lot of things that we already knew, and then sort of put a new spin on some of the things that most of us didn't really think required changing.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I can agree, or I can see the relevance and the weight in both of those statements, whether it's cynical or whether it's more lore-related. I can see the relevance in both of them, right? I don't understand what was wrong with the lore. And even if you do hate Metzen and you do hate everything that Metzen stood for, fine, change it then, but keep the original lore. You don't have to change the original lore. You can always just work on this and make it your own, you know? Live your best fucking life. He's not doing that, though, so, you know, we'll let that one go. But, BH, I hope that answers your question, at least to some extent.
One last thing on that. His writing style, Denuser, seems to be providing answers to everything. We can't leave anything up to speculation, because then that means we failed in proving how awesome we are, or, you know, how immersive the lore is.
You see, I would
effectively just pulling the veil off of everything and leaving nothing up to speculation is supposedly a good thing.
Yeah, but see, I would actually disagree with that somewhat. Not completely, because I do agree with some of that, but I would disagree to some extent. So, Denuser answers in painstaking detail things that should be left open to interpretation, and then leaves things open to interpretation that should be answered in painstaking detail. So I'll give you guys a great example of this. Or I say great example, it's probably a fucking mediocre example at best, but the Chronicles. The Chronicles provided a lot of detail and conclusions to a lot of stories that we previously did not know about. And it allowed us to sort of speculate heavily. Like, we speculated a storm thanks to the Chronicles. I remember, I think I made close to 200 videos almost just about the Chronicles and all of the sort of information that lay embedded within that book, or 3 books actually. And this is because a lot of the stories in the Chronicles had endings. So we got, for example, a lot more information about what happened to Sargeras, why Sargeras turned against his own brothers, how that altercation went out, what they said to him, what he said to them, what he did to them, what they did after, you know, all that stuff. So that is pretty deep conclusions. But then it also leaves a lot of gaps within the story, and a great example of this would be when they speak about the Shadowlands. So they have all of the different realms. They have the Emerald Dream, they have Azeroth, and then they have the Shadowlands. And these are sort of titles, and then there's, or subtitles, and then there's a bit of lore about every single one of these realms. And then when it comes to the Shadowlands, it just says no one knows who made this, no one knows what goes on in there. All we know is that that is where creatures' souls go when they die. That's it. It doesn't speak about what it is. It doesn't speak about who's there. It says nothing of the sort. So obviously, that's like, oh my god. With all the information we have now, and then obviously with that fucking juicy line, there's so much we can talk about now, right? There's so much that's left out in the open with this. But thank you so much for the Prime, I did really appreciate that. Welcome to the DJ Nation. Appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Then you get to the Grimoire of the Shadowlands. And in there, it's a collection of vague, sort of nuanced takes. That's it. It's just all vague, nuanced sort of takes about, oh, it could be this, it could be that, who knows? And it's like, all right, dude, I don't know, because the newser, literally before Grimoire of the Shadowlands launched, the newser said, people who loved speculating about Chronicles are gonna love Grimoire, because there's so much more to speculate about. And then we all read, well, at least I read, the Grimoire of the Shadowlands, and afterwards I was like, dude, what am I supposed to speculate about here? There's no concrete evidence. There's no starting point for speculation. You've not made any claims that I can go, oh, if that's true, then that must also be true. Hence speculation. You basically gave me an account of something where the brokers themselves aren't fucking sure if they even know what the hell's going on. So how the hell am I supposed to speculate on any of this? There's no facts. And that's the whole point of speculation, is we start with a fact, and then we sort of extrapolate from there, and we come up with some level of storyline. So it was kind of annoying. And that's the thing that I would say, that's why I said small disagreement. The newser is very good at sort of closing off certain storylines. Like, this is concrete evidence where maybe he should have left a few more gaps, and then horrible on stories where he should have actually closed the fucking concrete and said this is done, and then he just leaves those open for interpretation. And in the end, we're left with this sort of, okay, we don't know. We do not understand what the story is all about. And that's why we have retcons after retcons, and no one really understands what the fuck these retcons are about, because the whole storyline doesn't make a lot of sense. Patylin, you know, it does make sense. You subbing tier 1, really appreciate that. 4 months, part of the DJ Nation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. Steve the Loser, bro, I could not have said it better myself. I could not. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm gonna fucking remember that. I already have Bobby Contek. Love that name. Now we have another one. Steve the Loser. I appreciate you.